In the panel today, we have 7 guests, each an expert in their respective field of work. I would like to introduce them once again. We have, to my extreme left, Robert June Kharjahrin, a lawyer by profession, and the president of the Hynniew Trep Youth Council. We also have Brightstarwell Marbangiang, the MLA of the Voice of the People Party from Mawlai Constituency. We also have Professor Xavier, the head of the Department of Philosophy, Nehu. And we also have Professor S.Pradhan from the Department of Commerce, St. Anthony's College, who is also the representative of the Mawlai College Teachers Association. And we also have Professor Prasanjit Biswas, one of the vocal professors of Nehu. He's a professor in the Department of Philosophy. We have Professor S.Srikanth, who is a professor in the Department of Political Science, Nehu. And last but not the least, we have Mrs. Sonal KS, an MA student from the Department of Political Science, Nehu. Now, I believe each and every one of you has seen, has read, and have heard articles, statements, and remarks made by different individuals on the national education policy, its problems, the disagreement, the air of confusion that surrounds this issue. And it would be interesting to hear from our panelists their opinions and their thought on this very important issue, and also on the theme that NEHUSU has come forward with. But before we go any further, I would like to tell you a little bit about the national education policy. As you all know, the central government's National Education Policy 2020 was established in the year 2020, and it came into effect during the 2023-24 academic year, bringing with it a slew of changes. Now, this NEP aims to revolutionize the educational system in the country by addressing several challenges and implementing many comprehensive reforms. Now, this NEP also aims to combat several challenges like the rote learning, the exam-centric approach, your lack of vocational education, and you have your teachers training and professional development. Now, however, critics argue that there are neoliberal facets in this policy that may somehow seemingly pose an onslaught on the socialist principles and ideology that historically underpinned our Indian educational system. Some of these facets of neoliberal include privatization, commercialization, globalization, skill development over critical thinking, and you have inequitable resource allocation, dilution of the community engagement, and a market-driven approach, among others. Now, but then let's talk about Meghalaya. In Meghalaya, the decision to implement the NEP from this current year did not go down well with many professors and with many academicians who felt that an important policy such as an NEP, it requires a lot of discussion and deliberation, and also must be implemented with utmost sincerity and dedication, and not done in a hurried manner to please a few echelons. Now, enough of me talking. Let's hear what our panelists have to say. Let's start with Professor Srikanth. So, sir, we know that the theme itself says neoliberal onslaught on the fundamental right to education. Can you tell our audience a little bit about this theme?
Yeah, at the outset, let me congratulate NEHUSU for going ahead with such an interesting topic, that too in such a beautiful venue. I think you are the first people to think of this creative interaction in such a beautiful place, and I know that this is going to become a future thing. Many people will imitate you and follow you. Now, coming to this topic, let us be very clear about what neoliberalism before we discuss whether NEP is neoliberal or not. So neoliberalism is basically associated with theories, you can say the policies and programs enunciated by some of the economists like F.A. Hayek, Mises, Milton Friedman, and others. They used to write about it. They were all anti-socialist and they were against even welfare state policies. And they were strong votaries of market economy. They have been writing since 1940s and 50s about that. But it was only in 1980s with Ronald Reagan and Thatcher becoming the heads of the USA and UK that these neoliberal policies, they started implementing it. So they started cutting the subsidies for the welfare policies. They withdrew the state from developmental activities and they gave full freedom for market forces to operate. And afterwards, the financial institutions like IMF, World Bank, and WTO, they all started coming out with the policies in the name of structural adjustment and forced the developing countries to withdraw from all kind of state interventionist policies and to go for privatization and commercialization. So this, but at one time when socialism was alive, so Soviet Union was there, the third world countries could resist that. But once the Soviet Union collapsed, there was no resistance. So many of the third world countries, including India, was forced to accept the structural adjustment policies and give up the entire idea of socialism and go for market-oriented policies. It is in that sense that we started this one from 90s onwards, this LPG mantra. I'm not talking about liquefied gas, petroleum, which costs 1,000 rupees today, even after 200 rupees general subsidy. So I'm talking about liberalization, privatization, and globalization. That became the mantra. And it is in pursuit of this mantra that in 1997, WTO came out with an agreement called GATS, General Agreement on Trade in Services. And this is a fundamental change. Earlier, when we said trade, it meant trade in goods. But now they introduced trade in services. That means it is not only the goods which can be traded, even services can be traded. So it is in that sense health and education are services. Earlier, we thought that these are the welfare activities to be undertaken by the state in the interests of national development. Now they became goods, commodities which can be sold and purchased in the market. And once we became a party to the GATS agreement, now the entire education is now became open for private entrepreneurs, global and also national. So in a massive scale, the private entrepreneurs entered education. That too is true even in India. You know, in 1990s, there were less than 200 universities in India. But now in 2023, now we have nearly 1,000 universities.
So thank you, Professor. So Professor Prasanjit, Professor Srikanth has mentioned clearly about the meaning of neoliberalism. So do you think this privatization and globalization of education is going to be detrimental to our education system, considering the fact that these universities from outside can also participate and also come to invite students? And doesn't this mean that it will defeat the purpose of right to education, because it will no longer be inclusive, it will instead be exclusive? Only the rich people, the privileged, will have the can go to college, afford to avail education.
Yes, I mean, this is a great question. In fact, this question nails the problem that is at hand today. The question of privatization, you see, globally, education is still considered as a public good. and higher education is considered as the highest public good. Now in Europe, highest public good is backed by taxpayers' money, because in many of the European countries, taxation slab is up to 40% of the total income. Much of it goes for higher education and health services. Now compared to that, in India, NEP promises 6% of the GDP for education. And this year, the budget estimate is 1,20,000 crores for entire education, of which UGC has been given merely 8,000 crores. IITs are given another 28,000 or 30,000 crores. And National Research Foundation over 5 years is given only 10,000 crores. Now imagine the money that is given. This is really pittance for really building up a robust higher educational infrastructure, for having great research in India, and for making a mark in the world. Our young brains, because demographically now 45% of the population is going to be young people by 2025, 45% of our population. And much of these youngsters have great brains, they are capable, but where will they do their research if it is not funded by the state? If it is to be private funded, the cost has to be borne by the children and their parents, from where they will bear the cost, except if they are not coming from corporate and the business class. So higher education is increasingly becoming a business class affairs in the context of India. Now NEP should have prevented that. The document is silent about larger public funding for the greatest public good such as higher education. So this is what one has to note. Apart from that, the overall neoliberal kind of policy, which only looks for somehow passing out the students. Students must pass out with a degree. Now the value of the degree will be determined by the market forces, whether that degree brings employment or not. Now this is a vicious cycle. If research and level of education is not of the highest standard, whatever degree one is earning, one is not able to speak a language. One is increasingly, there is a lull in reading habits. People are not reading books and journals. They are not able to express themselves in a good language. So linguistic skill, reading skills, computing skills are going down increasingly and increasingly, and thereby marking a certain kind of a decline in higher education and its standards. And then people are getting great degrees from IIM and IITs without having much computing capacity, without having some original ideas. So where will it lend us to? It will lend us to a situation of a nation of mediocre. America, in contrast, attracts best of the talents from the world, yet America is not able to maintain its high standard, apart from funding issue. So in India, we are suffering from even the standards of education. It is getting greatly mediocreized, and that is the biggest crisis.
Thank you, sir. I would like to direct this third question to Robert June. Sir, so as we can see from the this theme that is given, one of the facets of neoliberal ideologies is the centralization of power. This could potentially undermine the federal system of India because, we have an education system where it traditionally fall under the concurrent lists with the center and the state sharing the responsibility. Do you think with this centralization of power, all the responsibility will fall on the central government, thereby allowing it to dictate terms and conditions?
Thank you for that question. It's a very tough question. But when we come to violation of federal structures, education is not the only sectors that has been violated. Federalism has been violated in the past 9 years in all fronts. We can name easily 100 of them. And of course, yes, it is a concurrent list, but with the way that the government is implementing the policy, almost all the concurrent list now has become a union list. Because, of course, the law say that the law passed by parliament will always prevail about the law passed by the state. So, and when the center is no longer to no longer listen to all the state, especially if those state does not belong to the same party, definitely it violates all fronts. Let's take a good example when it comes to the state of Meghalaya. And the example that I can give you is that when it comes to NEP implementation, UG, we only have one university affiliated, all the colleges affiliated to the central university. We do not have university. So what happened is that whatever decided at the capacity of the NEHU, even the state government will have no say on it. But when it comes to funding, the state government has to take responsibility on funding. If you look at NEP, it's both the state and the central government should contribute at least 6% of the GDP to the implementation of NEP. But NEHU, in the absence of academic council, decide to implement it. I don't know whether the state government has agreed or not in full, but the moment you have agreed whether you are prepared with the fund. I mean, look at NEP. I'll give you example. NEP talking about technology-based education. I mean, how can you do that in a remote area? NEP talk about multilingual. Let's take one school in Shillong, where the student, one will be from Nepali, some will be Khasi, another will be Garo. How can you do mother tongue in 1 to 4 class? I mean, you landing up in segregate Khasi student in one classroom, Assamese student in one classroom. I mean, have we ever thought of how to go about it? You know, when the central decided, they may have decided, okay, mother tongue mean Hindi. But no, that is not facts. Even in Shillong, it is very tough when it comes to this. And then look at the 3-language policy. Of course, the 3-language policies is always there from day one, but in the state of Meghalaya, we never implement this. Funding will be given if you take Sanskrit or Hindi, maybe they will give more fund, but if you promote your own dialect, they will not even give fund. So, yes, NEP, it's something that it has, where the federal structures has been violated, no doubt, and especially the state of Meghalaya where we have nowhere to go. We may like NEHU, we may not like NEHU, but at the end of the day, all the colleges has to depend on NEHU. So, and yes, the Honorable Vice Chancellor say that every college, they did not write a complaint, or they did not complain about the notification of implement NEP. Who will dare to complain? If you complain again, if they do not entertain, do you have any other university to go and affiliate?
So you're trying to say that,
yes,
India being a diverse nation, the government has somehow failed to get everyone on board, because obviously the intention of the government to implement everything uniformly with the UCC now, with the one election, one nation. So it's like each policy cannot fit all, no?
So my point is this, it's like when it comes to NEP, definitely yes, they have violated the federal structures. Because one of the things, and when it comes to the state of Meghalaya, it's not only violated, but you're forced to implement something that is not impossible also. Forget decision, now you're forcing people to take it also. So this is something very bad, and if this situation continue, definitely it will have a big impact on the education sector as a whole in the state of Meghalaya.
Now that we're talking about the lack of respect reportedly shown by the authorities in NEHU, I would like to direct this question to Professor S.Pradhan, since you're a representative of the Mawlai College Teachers Association. So, sir, just recently, our State Education Minister, Mr. Rakam Sangma, had said that almost 99% of the colleges in Meghalaya has started implementing the NEP. So, do you think that those colleges that were previously opposing the implementation of the same have now succumbed to this pressure?
Okay, thank you for inviting the MCTA. Now, first thing, I was one of the panelists said that, with regard to neoliberations, with globalization, privatization coming in, and now education being a goods sector which is open to everyone, and I think young guys knows that the sponsor of the Indian cricket team is Byju's. So anyone who's doing well in the commercial sector really sponsors the Indian team. So Byju's is basically privatization of education. So that is already happening and has been happening since I think Manipal was started by a long time ago by Professor Pai. So that is there. Another thing that another panelist said is because with regard to the expenditure in the education sector, which is NEP is saying we want to make it 6%, and he has rightly pointed out that we are not able to reap on the young generation. At present, Indian population is mostly the young generation. If they are not utilized for this economy, then what we always been saying, brain drain is going to happen. Our best minds are going to go out, and we will be left with the average and the mediocre. If we don't harness this resource that we have, the manpower that we have. So we really have to think in terms of investment in education. If NEP is saying what they want, then the more serious thought has to be given with regard to investment in education. That is first thing I want to collaborate, whatever our panelists have said. Now coming back to the statement of our education minister. Now in an state, in an education sector, the education minister is at the apex, who is supposed to, take responsibility and, in policy matters with regard to education in the state. But if you look at the statement that has been made in education minister over a period of time, and if you have followed him, the education minister was once, who told that if our student doesn't go for this new education 4-year undergraduate program which requires 4 years, and if you follow an old 3 years program, then our student have to wait for 1 year. Then only they will be able to do PG. If somebody at the helm of affair make this type of statement, I think the morning Professor Sukla read this comment, he must be calling up Professor Sungo and saying, look, we have got these people, don't worry, everything is going to go fine. That is the opposition that you have to deal with. So today, in this forum, you are asking me to comment on his statement, where he's saying, according to his own statement, he said some 55 colleges were asked to give, and out of that, 33 said that we are not ready to implement NEP from this year. It is the same guy who comes and say, government has got nothing to do with this one. In yesterday's paper, he has said that 500 teachers have been appointed since the last 2 years to take up this policy. We were thinking about it. So I think, I need not, conclude this whole statement. Everybody is here, intelligent enough to draw their own conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So my next question is for our Mawlai MLA, Brightstarwell, Marbangiang. So, sir, in the NEP, so the undertone of the neoliberal ideologies, it's stated that, there will likely be a dilution of community participation because everyone will be more focused on their own individual things, and community participation engagement will be limited. What do you have to say on this?
I would like to thank the organizers for having invited me to be part of this panel discussion in the esteemed presence of my teachers and my friends. Looking at the new education policy as per the theme that has been laid out, a neoliberal onslaught on fundamental rights of education in India. As Professor H.Srikanth has rightly pointed out, that when it comes to neoliberalism, yes, it is a fact that it is an economic and political paradigm that emphasizes limited government intervention in the market, deregulation, privatization, and free market capitalism. And as he had pointed out, it emerged as a response to the perceived failures of welfare state policies in the 1970s, and became influential through figures like Margaret Thatcher in the UK and Ronald Reagan in the United States of America. And coming to the Indian context, the introduction of neoliberal policies in the 1990s under the banner of economic liberalization, or LPG, as Sir had mentioned, has led to significant changes in the economy and society, positively and negatively. In many cases, the negative impacts outweighs the positive ones due to the fact that vast majority of Indians are poor, and that is still the reality. And the National Education Policy 2020, introduced by the Indian government, has been hailed by many as forward-thinking blueprint for the country's educational landscape. However, a closer look at its provisions reveals a tilt towards neoliberal policies that could infringe on the fundamental rights to education. And therefore, going by the new educational policy, we can briefly analyze the aspect of new education policy 2020 that we constitute as neoliberal and how they might impact the foundational principles of education in India, some of which had been already mentioned by the panelists here. And the most important one is the commercialization or commodification of education. And apart from that is the diminishing state responsibility, which I feel have some connectivity with with the question which you have asked. Why? When you go through the new education policy, you'll find that it tries to diminish the responsibility of the state, whether at the center or at the state, where, according to me, I believe that right from its inception, when you look at India, when we frame the Indian Constitution, what we have is, when it comes to the Indian economy, it is a mixed economy. Because based on the ground reality of our country, that is the best. Because I feel that the state also have a very important role. But through the new education policy, what you will find out is that the state is trying to wash away everything and leave it for the private individuals to meddle with education in the country, which I feel it is very unfortunate. Because, for example, if you look at the central university like Nehu, me personally, if not because of central university, I wouldn't have dreamt of continuing my studies, my PGs. I would have ended up only completing my UG. That is a reality when we talk about India, where the majority of the people are still or do belong to the poorer class. So therefore, what I believe is this new education policy, it is not pro-people, because majority of the people are not the rich, but majority are poor.
So that's an interesting point that you've raised. Professor Mao, this next question is for you. Since Bright had mentioned that this NEP looks to be anti-poor people, and it doesn't. It defeats, like I said, defeats the purpose or the target of the RTE, which focuses on inclusive and holistic education. Now, only if it's a section of people receiving education, the rest, let's say 70 or 60% of the common people will not be, have access to that kind of education. So, how do you think this policy, as many had, like Bright said, hailed it to be progressive and a good policy? How do you think it will tackle that point?
As per the vision of 2020 new education policy, ideally they want every Indian to be educated. That is why at the school level also, unlike in the past, 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. Thereby, everybody is to be uplifted. And that is why they have also put 6% of the GDP to be spent on education. But in reality, over the last few years, how much the government has spent? 2.9. That is not even half. Then how it will exclude the poor people? Well, if centralization, like common university entrance tests, is conducted, then of course remote area poor people, they will not be able to compete and they will not be able to join in the good education institution. So that is where poor people will be left out. Then another contradiction which we find is that in appointing the vice chancellors or directors of IITs or all the top people are highly politicized. That is, only suffragized people or those who endorse, they are appointed. And that is where, at present, if we look at the education scenario, university scenario or IT scenario, some students are committing suicide. Some vice chancellors are involved in a various scandal. They are resigning. They are forced to resign. A lot of such scandals are happening. So the whole country's situation, scenario is very, very chaotic, unfortunately. And at the national level, the All India University and College Teachers Association is even saying the whole NEP should be rolled back, remove it. Not only that, but even Federation of the Central University Teachers Association is also saying the whole thing should be removed. Not only that, but Joint Forum for Movement on Education itself is also saying the whole thing should be scrapped, which means something is wrong. And procedurally, that whole document should have been placed in the parliament as a democratic nation state to be openly debated, but secretly it was never placed. So that itself is very defective. And then since instead of funding money like in the past, now we are asked to take loan, that is HEFA, higher education loan, you see. So that way then, how poor people can manage? And a lot of poor people will be left out. And poor colleges and universities cannot rise up. They have to have their own internal resource generation, sufficient money. Without that, it will be closed down. And in a big country like India with 1.4 billion people, unless generous central funding is there, the amendment of the Indian Constitution, Article 21A, in 2002, 86 amendment, will never be implemented. Now, with that amendment, education has become a fundamental right, fundamental article now. Earlier, it was a directive principle of Article 45. But with the amendment in 2002, it has become fundamental right. But without funding, how people can have that right? Theoretically, it is very sound, and even vision-wise, a holistic sort of education, very sound, very, very beautiful. But when it comes to actualization, when it comes to practical level, it is almost zero. That is why, in spite of having passed 2020, we are 2023, the whole country is very, very chaotic. And even at Jantar Mantar in New Delhi, various important bodies are going to have a rally.
So in 1970s, they realized the more the students get educated, the more they get conscious, the more they threaten the legitimacy of the state. So they tried to withdraw education and make it deliberately exclusive only to the poor. And neoliberalism, even in India, is trying to maintain the same trend to make it exclusively for the poor so that they can crush in any dissents from marginalized and the poor sections.
Thank you very much. Now let's talk about the implementation of the national education policy in Meghalaya, because we know that there are many challenges that Meghalaya has to go through to ensure that there is a successful implementation of the NEP. So, Sir Prasanjit, we know that Meghalaya colleges in the rural areas cannot meet the conditions set on the NEP. One of those is the infrastructure, and the second is the number of students. That is what they mentioned, 3,000. So how do you think the state is going to handle this problem?
In fact, the constitutional rights that are enshrined in the 6th schedule actually doesn't allow any national policy to be implemented in toto. In case of Meghalaya, in case of Nagaland, in case of Mizoram, the kind of constitutional protection that these states still enjoy, that is because of the ground reality of a lot of marginalized people, of a comparatively low human development. Meghalaya has been deemed as the poorest state of the country by Niti Aayog. Meghalaya's enrollment ratio has been deemed to be the lowest in the country by Niti Aayog. Now, in such a situation, how can you suddenly jump out to implement a policy that requires a basic infrastructure, which is absent? The standalone colleges, which are in larger numbers, which are single stream, which do not have multidisciplinary faculty and departments, how they are going to implement multidisciplinary NEP is a major question. Now, Meghalaya government doesn't have enough funding for the colleges. It even couldn't pay to its school teachers at some point of time. And Meghalaya government, the Honorable Chief Minister, stated that he requires 400 to 500 crores for implementing NEP. I think this is the correct picture that he has given. Meghalaya government doesn't have enough money to build up that infrastructure to ensure that multidisciplinary education, variety of faculty, variety of streams and disciplines are available in every nook and corner of the state. Look at even the people's colleges. People's colleges are also not able to have multidisciplinary faculty. Look at the condition of the state university. 56 posts were announced to be fulfilled last year before election. They are still to be fulfilled. Look at the condition of the state university. They haven't formed the search panel to appoint a vice chancellor. So now you see, education is a common public good which is in joint sector. I do not belong to Meghalaya, maybe I belong to Assam. But what is happening in education in Meghalaya is my constitutional duty and responsibility, because it's part of the larger national public good. We have to see that Meghalaya doesn't lag behind in education in every way, and that requires a proper funding. So a proper people's initiative need to be developed to get funding from government sources, from foreign sources, from public donors. I think a state like Meghalaya should initiate that process. That's completely absent. So given this kind of a lacuna, talk about implementation of NEP is just a talk. It's actually not maturing, actually not happening. Even if the exam happens, even if the courses are completed, the basic lacuna is such that the quality is not delivered and the actual purpose is not served. So therefore, the question is very, very critical. It's a crisis situation in Meghalaya. Given that, how best we can think about ways of funding, ways of improving, ways of having multidisciplinary education, skill education, all these details need to be thought about as part of a proper state education policy. Meghalaya cannot just go with NEP, it must have a state education policy which may be linked up to the NEP. Where is the state education policy of Meghalaya if it has to implement NEP? So therefore, one has to raise those questions and has to seek an answer.
Thank you, sir. But Robert, we know, like Professor Prasanjit has said, that this is a crisis, that Meghalaya is in. But why do you think the government is so adamant? Why do you think the government insist on the implementation of the IUP despite the several challenges, inherent problems that we have in our state? Do you think it is just to please the the people in Delhi, considering the fact that Lok Sabha election is near?
I think you make a mistake by saying that the government is adamant. The state government is not adamant, but it's afraid. No, this is a fact. It's afraid. As I tell you why. State government has almost no say in Nehu, but Nehu is the only link for the colleges in the state of Meghalaya. For the past 50 clearest year, we have 0 university of our own. So imagine that situation. You don't like it, but still you have to go. You don't want it, but you have no other say, but you have to submit. I will give an example of what are happening in the NEP. We have read a lot of papers, we have seen a lot of media communication. Look at the principal in the state of Meghalaya. Initially, almost all of them are opposing it. But what's happening later on? Because they were free. We don't have an option to go west. We do not even have a capacity to even talk. Look at the MCTA. They have raised a valid point. They have raised a valid issue. The VC will not even call because he knows that nobody can touch him because even the state government will have no say in it. So that is a big problem, as I told you, in the state of Meghalaya. We don't have a state university of own. Let me tell you, to be very frank, if we have a state university in 2023, 80% of colleges affiliated to Nehu will leave. They will leave. But since we do not have it, we have no other option. We have to do it. We know the impact of NEP that it will happen us. When we talk about neoliberalism, it's already happening in Meghalaya. We have 0 law to regulate on the fee structure right from the school to university. You compare the fee in Meghalaya and in Assam, a big difference. Can you imagine a nursery school will charge 60 to 65,000 a year in the state of Meghalaya? And when Meghalaya gives sponsorship, like in the form of SSA or in the form of ad hoc, they will not pay teacher's salary for 6-7 months. Definitely the school will have to charge fee from the student. In other part of India, we are talking what's happening of the neoliberalism. We are experiencing it for 50 years. It's almost a private. Everything was done by church. Everything was done by locality. School were run by this group. Of course, we are thankful. They are not for money. They do for good intention, for service. But nevertheless, we do not have much of support from the state government. So when it comes to implementation of NEP in the state of Meghalaya, even the government know that they are not ready. They know that this is not going to happen. As professors already say, they may be able to write exam, they may be able to take the syllabus, but they know at ground reality is no NEP at all. Look at the skill, the vocational course that they offer, sub-skill, like what? Like public speaking. I mean, it's not even a skill. Of course, it is some skill, but whether that skill will allow you to get some jobs like in Reliance or in a big company or maybe, come on. That is even, you look at Sawas Kasil, I will tell you example. We do not even have one vocational training institute. How will you do it? How will you impact skill? You look like IIT or IIM in that Renja, that training institute. When ITI, when I asked the young boys who are going there, they say that they have only one workshop and the material they show some sort of that old car. The market now they're talking about electronic car and all, no? But when they do teaching, they will give us an old jeeps and all and teach students on that. So that is where we are looking behind. In the state of Meghalaya, with the fund that we have and with the capacity that we have, we are talking about computer, we are talking about lots of things. But if you go to rural area, forget rural area, you go to semi-urban area also, we have a lot of difficulty. So I don't really know why half the state government has to compel. But yes, I know one answer. Why did the state government is afraid is because the moment they object one agenda proposing by the BJP led by the government, the moment you do that, CBI and AD will be on the doorstep. Will be on the doorstep, and that's why they have to submit everything. We have faced CEA. At first, our chief minister is the hero of Northeast, and later on his sister landing up supporting CAB in the parliament. Now UCC, he's the first person to object UCC. Now he said that it's just a concept. Yes, it's still a concept, but do you agree or you disagree with that concept? So we are landing up in a very sorry state of affairs. Forget violation federal structures. Everything has been forcibly imposed on us, and that is why I don't know. And look at the argument that even at the level of the education minister will say that if we don't take the 4 years graduate, nobody will take admission. Nobody will allow you to take master degree admission. I have not seen that statement given by any minister of education from the union government. The Nehu itself project for hybrid mode. So will you say that after 3 years, those who take the old syllabus in Nehu will not be allowed? When you yourself say that if you don't want to take NEP, you can still go for all course. Will you say that after 3 years, those who go for all course, you will not allow in master degree? Come on. Now, in order to cover up the facts that we fear, the union government, we have to, bring all those, whatever say, I don't know which word, but to say also is like an insultant to them. But yes, we are in a state of affairs that we are not in a position to even defend and speak what we want to speak. Thank you.
So, thank you, Ba. So, Ba Robert, you mentioned that, we are not in a position to oppose, we are not in a position to object. The government is afraid, like in this case, the NEP, if we do not go ahead with it, because we don't have a state university, our students, we don't know where our students will land up. So, Professor Mao, do you think the action or the move made by the VC to send a defective notification without the approval of the Academic Council will set precedents, and this will continue to happen in future?
Well, whatever mistake the Vice Chancellor has committed, that is, Academic Council is the proper authority, not even Vice Chancellor. Therefore, on his own, he cannot issue anything without the approval of the Academic Council. That is the big difference between government department and university. Therefore, first Academic Council has to debate and approve. After that, only Vice Chancellor can go for implementation at the administration level. So unless that is done, even the professors will not agree. So it will be in stalemate, and that may create more problem. But I think the state government can approach the central government, and also state government can also allocate some money. Without that, when I visited different colleges in remote area, I find only one teacher for one subject. And in some place, only just 2 teachers for one subject. So that way, if the teacher is sick, for days together, low class, nothing. So what kind of quality of student do you expect? So for this thing, the state government also has to fund, is it, for appointment of teachers, and as per UGC regulation, minimum for a subject has to be 4 teachers, you see, but one much below the UGC requirement. So how this way can we go ahead? So this has to be taken very seriously, and state government to really do something. The public has also to show their protest and their awareness and their anger. Otherwise, state government would be also very lack, you know. And as my colleague has said, teachers are not even getting their salary for 5, 6 months, 7 months together. Least important is being given. And unless even the schools, colleges, foundations is very strong, how can the university level, top level will be strong? Logically, it is absolutely impossible. The base has to be very strong. Then only at the higher level education it will be strong. That should be the pyramid. That should be the logical step. You see, ladder. But that is not there at all. So that has to be fundamentally and basically addressed.
Okay, you mentioned about the people coming out to voice their concern, to voice their protest. So, right, when it comes to NEP, we have seen in the media, parents have come out in support of the NEP. We have seen students on social media talking about in favor of the NEP. So, but do you think like not because the people who spoke in favor are just maybe let's say 20 or 30%, however the rest 70% they're not saying anything. It could be because they don't have a democratic space to say so, or maybe it's just that in their nature, like us Khasi people, we rarely speak up, you know.
See, the basic point here is that just two people speaking in the media does not represent the whole people. And the point to be noted also, many of these parents I've seen, not just parents, but I've seen some of the principals coming out in support of the NEP, and even some students. Many of them have not gone through the new education policy. Had they gone through, then they will have known the ground reality. And more so, like my co-panelists have just mentioned, leave alone our state Meghalaya. We don't have the resources. We are not ready for it. To be frankly, we are not ready for NEP. Not this year. And that is the point when even when you look at the NEP, it has not been mentioned that it is mandatory that we should implement immediately, with immediate effect this year. It all depends on the university or the state concerned when they are ready. But for the time being, I feel that we are not ready, and there are so many things that needs to be discussed. There are so many loopholes within the policy, and like you have just mentioned, 1 or 2 voices does not represent the people. The majority of the people have not spoken out. It is time. It's time. Go through the new education policy, then only make your points. Or I'm afraid maybe the 1 or 2 that have come up to speak, someone might have asked them to speak out also. Yeah. That might be one of the reasons.
Thank you, Ba.
Excuse me, can I come in? Yeah.
Yes, please, sir.
One of the major concern about the MCTA has been, we have been, dragged into a fight which we unwillingly, lead from the front. In the beginning, we were, a joint force with the principal. The principal and us were together in this fight. But after July 12th, as we have been mentioning again and again, the principal had turned around and, suddenly they were able to implement NEP, whatever the reason. And, we have been on this, even now, as of now, we are in the non-cooperation movement, where we want, our members have been asked not to participate in any of the, matters which related with NEP. So that is the thing. Now in this, we did have some, critical, as you have rightly pointed out, the parents have been coming out like, and against us. The students has been coming out against us saying that NEP is good, giving us choices and everything. As an institution, we do feel like, that the previous education policy that has been happening so far and the education system that we have been imparting, yes, there were some defects, we were generating people who were, to a large extent, which is, looking for employment. So we were generating, like unemployable graduates, the system. We are giving them certificate, but they are not getting, any jobs. Right, the dynamics has changed in the market. Skill-based is important, and other things which are values and ethics were driven to the backbenchers, backburners. So that was there. We do believe. So I think we want to set the statement very clear that MCTA per se is not against NEP. We are not against NEP per se, but we are against the way NEP is being implemented by the university, the hasty decision that has been taken by the university. I'll just give you one example. When we passed the curriculum and the syllabus, the academic council meeting went on till 10:30 p.m. So we were passing the syllabus just by looking at the heading, the objectives and the format and pass. ये तो कर लिया boss में तो जरूरत नहीं है देखने के लिए again. So that's how we pass. And in our hurry, we miss the syllabus of BA Music in St. Anthony's College. Right, so these poor chaps in music are facing a different music today. So they are not able to implement NEP. So I don't know whether the process will be there. Then I'll give you one example. Another thing, in NEP we have got multidisciplinary courses which is supposed to provide you foundational courses about other things. So in this MDC we have got one paper of 3 credits which is NCC. So it's foundational. But there in that paper there is one unit where they talk about maintenance and cleaning of weapons like rifles, self-loading rifles, carbines, light machine guns. Do you think you'll teach it in, stimulation or real course? Are you getting a point here? So that is the level, the syllabus has been formed. I'll give you another example, okay? They say it is multidisciplinary, but in commerce, I'm basically from commerce, so we are a stream. Right, but we have got only one degree. I don't know in yours, like for example, if you have got MA in education, is the university giving you MA in education, in special education, specialization, or any education in technological education, or it's just MA? Just MA in education. So when you apply for a job, you say specialization in educational technology, because you have 2 papers on that. Right, but we have universities where they give special education as specialization. So you just don't have MA. Like in commerce, you don't have MCom. You have got MCom with accountancy, you have MCom with law, you have got MCom with IT. So what has happened when you talk about discipline in commerce, we have got only commerce. So at the UG level, I have got commerce, right, which is my major. Then I have to offer minor. Now minor from where, philosophy, then from political science, fishery science, geology, which has got nothing to do with my paper. So our students from commerce are being forced to take a paper like geology. I think, that is a really, innovative paper. So, it's because of this type of hasty decision that has been taken. You may say like, I'm talking out of my mind. I'm just giving you one example of Delhi University, how they have done. They don't have major and minor. They have got discipline-specific courses, which is as per discipline, which we call major, and for minor they have got discipline-specific elective. So the elective are from your own discipline. So for commerce, there will be one paper for marketing, let's say, from management, one from banking, one from accounts, and from these 4 you have to select one. So you are not forced to take paper from geology or fishery science. So this little bit of thinking could have been done if you would have waited for some time. So these are the final thing. We are worried, like if you force them, everybody will pass. Everybody will get first class. I'm 100% sure. Because ultimately, because of shortage of time, I'll be correcting my own student without completing the syllabus. So just imagine, parents will be happy, everybody get first class. Students will be happy, everybody get first class. The moment you do CUT, go for Delhi University and study MCom, where commercial mathematics is a discipline-specific course, where calculus 1, calculus 2, trigonometry is a compulsory paper. And here, you took minor as fishery science. So I'm telling, basically what I'm trying to see here is, you have to stop back, look back and think. I'm all for it. The parents are worried, the students are worried, they look at the whole picture, and because of, fear that is being implanted into the mind. Yesterday only, I think in the Shillong Times, the chairman of the education department or someone who is a failed politician says that, if you do 4 years and if you do 5 years, then you'll have to wait for 1 year. Even now, the joke is still going on. I thought it ended with the education minister. It is still on. So, laugh out.
That's a good one, sir. My next question for Professor Srikanth. So, sir, it's a matter of concern because in Meghalaya we are implementing the NEP from top to bottom. We are taking that top to bottom approach when otherwise it should be the other way around. So, why do you think this is happening?
At the outset, I have to say that I was one of the first persons to raise my voice against NEP. And I wrote about it so many times and I spoke in different forums. But now when I see so many voices coming up, I feel happy that people are started thinking. First, I want to say about this thing. Why is it that many people think that NEP is good? Because in the last 3 years, we have conducted hundreds and thousands of seminars, workshops, and public talks, all saying as if NEP is the savior, as if NEP solves all problems that we are facing today in the country. And this is the only solution. So it has gone into our head so much that even the parents think that this is good. Even the students think that is good. Because the counterpoint is never given to us. There is no scope for understanding that there is another point of view where there are many states which refuse to have new education policy, saying that they are anti-people. There are many intellectuals, students, teachers opposing this for different reasons. But we all do not know that. Hence this problem. So when it comes to question of implementation, I have been talking about this one. You tell me first, what is the problem with 10 plus 2 plus 3? Then I will say why there should be the so-called 3 plus 5 plus 3 plus 4. There is never discussed. Now, actually, these are also, I want you to understand, even this implementation of the NEP at school level, it is also neoliberal. Okay? Earlier, we were thinking the children only at the age of 5, they will be mentally prepared to come to school and understand that. But now, what is this NEP for school education telling? From the age of 3, that they are entering into this education. Now you say formal, but what is this formal, this kind of education? In case of the urban areas, there are so many play schools. Play schools are coming now, they are commercial. Earlier only Montessori was there. Now there are Kidji and many things which charge lakhs of rupees. Now you say thousands here, but in Hyderabad and others, even for LKG, they will be charging 1 lakh rupees or 2 lakh rupees thing. So they have all kind of sophisticated kind of instruments and others to give for their children, because all parents think that their children should become IIT. So interest in this. That's the kind of thing. But what happens when it comes to rural areas? These rural and suburban areas don't have that. What is NEP telling? This education for these children should be done by Anganwadi workers. Don't forget, Anganwadi workers who have not passed even 10th class. Anganwadi workers are meant for some other good job. They are doing it, we appreciate it. But for taking care of the small kids' education of the small kids is a very technical subject. All cannot do that. So you have to have proper training to deal with small kids. But the NEP says that we will introduce that at the lowest level by employing Anganwadi workers and giving them 6 months training. 6 months training to Anganwadi workers who have passed 10th class. And they have to carry other work and also this work. Can they happen? So then you see the two kinds of students will start coming from this level itself. So there will be some students who will have all access, everything, and some don't have anything. So two kinds of students start coming even from primary. So many people are saying, oh, primary it should start, as if it is good. But there is so much of defective planning even at the level of primary thing. And that is what we should discuss. We should debate at every level whether it is correct or not, whether it can be implemented or not, whether we have resources or not, whether people are ready for this or not. All that we should do, but we are not interested. We are interested to push it somehow, as it become the first to implement NEP. What does it mean by becoming first in implementing NEP? If the standards of the schools, colleges and universities same as it was earlier, merely by changing the name to NEP, can we provide a better quality education? We have seen in our own post-graduation, we have changed the syllabus. Much of the syllabus is the old syllabus. We have given a new name. There is no new. We have only filled the old bottles, you can say new bottles with old wine. That is what we did. And that is what we are going to do even for this our degree classes. Many of the courses are old only. But the new courses you introduce, and nobody knows proper syllabus, nobody knows who are the going to be the teachers. Who will teach public education? What is that? Public speaking. I am myself is not a public speaker. I will teach public speaking to others. I myself is not a creative writer. I will tell how to write a creative writing. How you can? For that you have to find a good people. Really, those who are involved in it, you identify them and involve them and see that everybody has access to this. So lot of planning should go into that. That takes time. So take time. What is going to be, what is that you lose if you take 1 year more time? But people are trying to introduce it, force it. I tell you, this will be a disaster. Yeah. This will be a disaster whether you implement it at the level of PG or UG or school level. If you go without proper planning, proper infrastructure, proper, efficient number of teachers and also qualified instructors. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My last question will be for Mr. Sonal before I open this space for questions from the audience. Mr. Sonal, you are a student. After listening to all of these views given by your co-panelists, do you think it is practical to implement, they are already implementing, for NEP to be successful in Meghalaya?
Far from implementing, I would feel the student community feels that it has to be resisted. Its implementation has to be resisted at any cost. Firstly, because it is anti-poor, it's anti-marginalized. And one point I would like to highlight, even the problem with FYUP, the 4-year undergraduate program. What it is saying is that coupled with lack of scholarship, withdrawal of scholarships, withdrawal and loans, etc., is that only the privileged can complete the degree, full degree, and others will be given part certificates and diplomas, and so will be their pay grade in the market. So the classes, the lower classes, the underprivileged will be extremely underpaid, employed for the same job, but extremely underpaid. So you will have skilled yet underpaid labor in the market and highly educated but unemployed youths, because those who get a degree, they have to be paid more. Why would someone employ and pay them more than to employ someone with certificate and diploma and pay them less? So you will have unemployment crisis and underpaid wages crisis. So this is gonna cause a social crisis in future, definitely. And for students, it's definitely very detrimental for their spiritual, for their moral and ethical growths, because it doesn't see students as a human. It rather sees them as a product who can work in the market. So for students, as a community, should organize themselves and stringently oppose this very exploitative law, is what I would like to say.
Thank you very much. Now, if there's anyone from the audience who want to, pose a question to any of our panelists, please feel free.
My name is Marbangiang. I'm the General Secretary of the Union. I just want to ask three simple questions regarding this NEP. As we have known, some are against it for implementing this year, and some are for it for implementing this year. But if we don't implement it, that's my question. If we don't implement it, because I have heard that there are some students who apply for admission in some other states, because of the lack of subjects, she couldn't get admission. That is my first question. And my second question is, Mizoram has no difficulty of implementing this NEP because it have introduced this CBCS. Since 2016 it has been introduced, but why hasn't Meghalaya till now did not introduce this CBCS? And my third question is, as we all have known, as our Vice Chancellor, he talked about this hybrid mode. This hybrid mode, as I have known, because why he talked about this hybrid mode, because here in Meghalaya, some colleges are at this level and some colleges are at this level. So, if not implementing now and not using this hybrid mode, we cannot wait for those colleges who are at this level. And if we have to wait for all the colleges to reach the top level to implement this NEP, it will take almost to implement this NEP 2050. So that is my three questions.
Very, very brief answer. The first answer is about not being allowed admission, that sounds very fictional to me, in the sense that degree given by Nehu is under an act of parliament. No one who lives in territory of India can deny a degree granted under an act of parliament, be it 3 years, be it 4 years. And in the hybrid mode, some colleges will have 3 years, some colleges will have 4 years. Won't they be equal? If degrees are not equal, then degree loses its value. So degrees have to be equal under Article 14 of the Indian Constitution. Right to equality is fundamental. You cannot create two classes of citizens, one under 3 years, the other under 4 years. Though both are not going to reach anywhere, as we have analyzed so far, but creating two distinct levels, one is better than the other, is a kind of an artificial distinction. If it is to be implemented, it has to be implemented wholesale in totality. It is like if you are suffering from some disease, your body is suffering from, it cannot be that you treat one part of the disease saying that will be cured faster and leave the other part, to infest your body. So the whole conception has a problem here. That some will choose 3 years, some will choose 4 years, and then you say 3 years will not have any value. That's a contradiction. So therefore, this whole logic seems to be a little, surreptitious, in the sense that no one can deny a NEHU degree, in any part of the country. Be it 3 years, be it diploma, be it certificate, no one can deny that. Because our degrees are under an act of parliament. So this propaganda that 3-year degree will not be admitted. Achha. Second question, where do Meghalaya students go for admission? Do they go in large numbers in Delhi? Certainly. Now when Kuwait is introduced, what will happen? Many Meghalaya students won't be scoring that high. Their scores will be much lesser, even now. Now just to give them a chance, we have introduced certain weightage. Suppose those weightage are removed. What will happen to the students of Meghalaya? Neither they will get admission in college nor in the university. So then what will happen? Students from other parts of the country will come to state colleges of Meghalaya. Do we want that to happen? Let's say students of Tamil Nadu coming to Meghalaya, students of Haryana coming to the state of Nagaland, and the students of Meghalaya and Nagaland are not getting anywhere. Is it what is intended out of NEP? Or NEP intends that students of a certain state must have a strengthened possibility of getting into higher education? Now you see, this is an unintended consequence. If we are arguing so much for NEP, it's not turning into a national education matter, but it is turning upturning the local situation in a manner which is asymmetric and unfavorable to the local situation. Now that should not have happened. Unfortunately, that's happening. So there is a lie in saying that 3-year degree program students will not be admitted, because this is illegal to say so, because an act of parliament gives us the degree in NEHU, not anything else. Secondly, if it is pursued, then the states of Meghalaya, Nagaland, Mizoram and the students of states of Meghalaya, Nagaland, Mizoram will have a lesser opportunity. That also is there. So please think about it.
Yes, sir.
Little clarification. Under the new NEP, lateral entry provision is there. Free entry, free exit is there. First year is a diploma. Second, certificate. Then 3-year certificate and 4-year certificate. One can also come back after. So of course that provision is there under the NEP. But the problem is, if the whole university implements and some colleges do not follow that, then those students may face problem. So how to take care of the students? The students will be in the middle of the shuttle. So that is where we have to take care of.
Okay, I just want to say something about this one. With this, I'm audible. Yes. Okay, this 3 years and 4 years thing that is going on. I think the first question was, hybrid, right? Right, it's genetically modified or something. Okay, so we have a hybrid system. Now, that is the notification mentioned it for the first time about the hybrid. I think, we were not talking about hybrid in the academic council. We said everybody will go for 4 years undergraduate programs or the old programs, this one. So this notification is the one which said for hybrid. And I think, the people who issued this notification has realized now that it's not possible. You cannot have, two type of system going side by side. Like, in terms of classes, in terms of curriculum, in terms of this one, which is almost impossible. Either you have the 3 years or you have the 4 years. That's the first thing I feel that is the thing. Now, with regard to, the student who are going for the 3 years will miss out. As the people who put fears in their mind, our mind says that we'll miss the bus. If you don't go for 3 years, you'll miss the, if you don't go for 4 years, you'll miss the bus, it's a total paradigm shift, that type of thing, They use this type of, catchwords. So, I will just, through my interaction with those people who are there in the curriculum committee, they specifically mentioned that most of the colleges in Meghalaya will not be able to offer the fourth year. The fourth year, that is semester 7 and 8, you will not be able to offer, because we are going to put strict condition on that. One of them is they should have 2 faculty who have been acting as supervisor for PhD student. Then only you will be allowed to continue the fourth year. And as per Nehu ordinance, till now, even now as we are speaking, college teachers are not allowed to act as supervisor for PhD student. So which college in Meghalaya will offer fourth year? So all the colleges in Meghalaya will offer 3 years. Though we call it 4-year degree program, undergraduate program. But in effect, all of them will offer, most of them, if not all, few of them are always there. Most of them will offer 3 years degree program. Now, will these people be just wasted? No. NEP says that after 3 years program, you sit for Kuwait and you will get PG admission in any colleges any university, central university in the country. Same. So if I am doing old course, 3 years, sit for QUT, Kuwait and PG. New course, sit for 3 years, sit for Kuwait, PG. There is no difference. In fact, I feel personally that very few students will go for the fourth year. The reason is, if you go for the fourth year, you will get lateral entry into the PG, where a PG will be for 1 year. And according to NEP, the PG department should maintain a supernumerary seat for them. That is 10% of the total admission capacity of the department. So if the department have got 50% capacity, 10% of that will be 5. So if you want lateral entry, you are only fighting for that 5 seat. So will you go for the fourth year and fight for this 5 seat, or will you finish 3 years and be more user common sense, sit for Kuwait and fight for the whole seat? So basically what I'm trying to say here, this whole logic of 4 year and 3 years is irrelevant. And the mind people has been playing on us again and again is, if you have 3 years, then you'll have to wait for 1 year, then apply. I don't know what is this. I think, what is the last question?
Waiting for the college to come out.
Okay, waiting for the college. Another thing that we as an MCTA has been facing, you people are always complaining. You are waiting for everything to be perfect, then only will implement NEP. That will never happen in your lifetime. We understand that. We understand. But basic thing like syllabus has to be ready, no? Basic thing. You know that only the syllabus of the first semester and the second semester has been passed. There are 15 papers in the major. I don't know what are the 13 papers in commerce. Today the student comes and asks me, sir, will we have a specialization in marketing? I said, I also don't know. There is vocational, vocation and training education. I think it's from the 3rd semester or 4th semester. You ask the Nehu, the VC, he also don't know. No, I'm saying I'm not against NEP. I'm telling you time and again. I'm not against. We are against hasty implementation of NEP. Don't play with the future of our children. If we allow them today, they will do more things. And basic thing. These are things which we have been trying to explain to the parents long ago, but nobody is listening. They are, as sir has said, the propaganda of having series of, talks on NEP before implementation. And, declaring NEP a success even before its implementation has already happened. So I don't blame them. But, one thing which we are very clear in principle, this notification that came in the July 12th is a defective notification. It states something which has never happened. It said the decision has been taken in the Academic Council and the same has been approved by the EC to implement NEP 2020 from academic session 23-24. It never happened. If I as a teacher stop down and stoop low and accept this notification, how will I face my student whom I'm telling you, don't raise your voice? So if I'm alone, I'm still raising it. But I don't know how long I'll be able to do that. If I don't have the support of the media, I don't have the support of the student, I don't have the support of the faculty, the government has already let down. The government has already let down. It has its own personal agenda. I understand. But you don't have, no? So why are you keeping quiet? Please lend your voice to us.
Hello.
Yes, Varun.
Okay. I think when it comes to that issue that 3 years graduate will not get admission, because this statement, it came from the government.
I dare issue a notification, then we will see. Yes, you're the lawmaking authority. You're supposed to speak something which is, you're talking about NEP outside NEP. So, you're the minister, you're the chief minister, you're the advisor of so many advisors. We know how do you get, since you have already tell in the whole world how you get it. Issue a notification and then we'll see. Just like they did to teachers, you know? The famous state education policy in the state of Meghalaya 2 times had been struck down by the High Court. So now issue a notification saying that 3 years will not be allowed. And those universities who have not even themselves implement NEP, if they dare to say that that they will not be allowed, we will see. As I told you right from the beginning, even Nehu itself has accepted this so-called hybrid. Will Nehu now issue notification that after 3 years, if you don't do a 4-year, we will not accept a master degree? No, because those are not facts. Those is something that they just want to put fears into the mind. Last but not the least, from HYC also, we want to make ourselves very clear. Even though we have a lot of concern on NEP, even though we have a lot of issue on NEP, at this point of time, we are not in a position to even oppose it because it's already been passed. So what we are concerning is that we cannot see that something is implemented and then regret, and those students will not go nowhere and they will be suffering. Now, as I spoke to so many students, they say that we don't even have books. Teachers don't even have books. So what are we doing here? Teachers don't have books, students don't have books. I don't know what are you doing here? So that's why most of the state, like Karnataka and all, where we know the where in what level, they're starting withdrawing this. So who we are to even think about it? And now they're talking about NEP even at the school level. So this is something very serious. So at the end of the day, it is our fault. It is the fault of the Meghalaya electorate who has put them into those chairs. Now we are facing the music even in the absence of the syllabus in the music department. Thank you.
I just say, I remember a dialogue in Sholay, where they say, "Khana khao, nahi to gabbar aayega." So it is like that. Take NEP, otherwise. Huh? But I just tell you that out of 1,000 universities that we have, it is only 100 universities which said we'll go ahead with the NEP this year. So many of the universities say we'll go next, and some of the universities say we will not go. Will not go. Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka recently, this one, West Bengal, they are openly saying that we don't want NEP. Can you say that they will lag behind the rest of India? They say our education policy is better than NEP. What is that we have to learn from you? You learn from us. That is what they are saying. So to say that if you don't follow that, it happens, nothing happens. Provided the education that you are giving is very good, whether it is state education or any education, if the foundations are good, if the syllabus is valid, if the teachers teach properly, and if the students follow it properly, and they can do well. Because you get jobs, not seeing the degree, but on the basis of your performance in the exams, civil service exams and other exams. For that, the foundation should be good. Once the foundation is good and your degree is valid, there is nothing to worry. Whether you are from a state university or a central university, you can compete. So nothing to get worried about, if I don't have 4-year degree, I will not get job. Nothing of that sort. Even if you have 4-year degree, if your intelligence is below the level and if you have not understood anything, you are not going to get job. So let it be clear. Thank you.
As you know, most of the colleges have already started the implementation of NEP, and to be honest, it felt like a mock drill, even for us, the teachers. So can you provide a solution?
like any suggestion to these colleges who have already started the implementation, because we had no other choice but to follow the new syllabus.
Okay, I think I will answer on that question. From the organization, it's like 2 months back, we have already met the VC and we have discussed this matter thoroughly. Of course, in a discussion, when the people who spoke for NEP, we will feel that yes, maybe he's right. When the other group will say again it, we will also feel that yeah, maybe he's right. That's why we from the HYC has told that if it's so good, why are you afraid of the academic council? They think that the teachers, the respect, ladies and gentlemen in the academic council will sit in a meeting and plan to go against the interests of the people of Meghalaya Northeast. No. They think that principal, teachers who are in academic council, they will say that let's do something of not implementing NEP so that the student who's studying in colleges affiliated to NEHU, their future will be wasted. A person who is afraid of a democratic meeting, a person who is afraid of something which is more accountable, he has something to hide. So right now, this is not too late. Let's hope the VC hear it, and if they not hear it, let's hope that he sends somebody to listen for him. We ask him, call for an academic council immediately, settle this matter one and for all. We're not here to say who's right and who's wrong, but at least call the teachers' organization on board. You can call MCTA. They're very much here. You can call NEHUTA. You can involve the state department of Meghalaya, because at the end of the day, even the decision is of NEHU, the sponsoring. That 6% GDP, will NEHU be able to say that we will contribute to that much money on Meghalaya? No. You invite the people from Meghalaya, both from education and finance. You sit and decide. We as the people of the state are ready to accept that outcome. But if you're running away, from debate, if you're running away from discussion, even in a prestige academic council, I'm afraid that there is something that need to be had. So the time is not too late. I do feel that the NEHU should call the academic council, or if not the academic council, you can call the important stakeholder in the state of Meghalaya, and then let's take a call. Let's analyze the pros and cons and then take a call. I do feel the moment we do that with a good intention, this matter will be settled one and for all. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Hi. Okay, first of all, let me congratulate the organizers for a very wonderful venue. I'm sticking out my legs barefoot. Well, I like to do earthing, okay? Grounded. So that word grounded is something that I'm going to lay emphasis on. You see, there are many questions that have been raised. I will not go into what the Academic Council decision, what my friend Robert has said that Academic Council should be called again. I beg to disagree, because the Academic Council has taken a measured decision. They weigh all the pros and cons before they arrive, and they took the decision not to implement NEP 2022-23. But right, taking cognizance of the fact, it's like saying that, you know, when you cook, you need a recipe. Okay? Here you don't have a recipe. So what type of food you're going to cook, you don't know. You might land up with indigestion. That is the tragedy of what we are actually stepping into. And I always use this cliche, you put your money where your mouth is. You don't have money, you have money, we can do anything overnight. You can appoint, you can build infrastructure, fine, everything can be done. No money is just a farce. superfluous. Everything is superfluous. So, one of the questions I would like to ask the panelists is, do any one of you know whether the government, the state government has debated on this issue? You know, like I said, when you talk about policies galore in Meghalaya, mining policy, tourism policy, sports policy, where have all those policies end up? We don't have the wherewithal to actually implement most of them. Same is going to be the case with education policy. I mean, in all its, a lot of big people have actually put their minds and heart into coming out with this policy. As some of the panelists have said, we may not really resist, NEP in its form, okay? But question is the mode, the manner in which it was done, hastiness, that actually questions the autonomy of the university. We are an autonomous institution. You can't just ram things down our throat. And that academic council is there. It's an oversight body to see that nothing is just pushed down your throat. Right? My learned colleagues will agree with me. And that's the basis of the entire issue that we've talked. Why NEHUTA has taken a stand to say that what you've done is wrong. Because we have decided that it cannot be done because I think our MCTA colleague has, many of them have articulated and expressed the fact that colleges cannot. And I'll give you just one more example. When the college were admitting students, we were functioning or operating under the old ordinance. And now, without having an ordinance, you want to switch to the new ordinance which just got passed recently. So how is that possible? Technically, it's a mess. You can't have two ordinances giving two different degrees to different categories of students at the same time. So this is where we are today. Having an academic council meeting will not solve the problem. Give time, you don't know how much time. It might take 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Lord only knows how many. 400, 500 crore if the Chief Minister can say, give to the Education Department, here's 400, 500 crores, go ahead. Then fine, we should accept. Right now, even in the university, our budget is dwindling. We were running with X amount, now it is minus X. And we have, in the fourth syllabus, in the fourth semester, we have, very ambitiously put in a lot of things under skills, under multidisciplinary. But we don't know how we're going to run those courses because we don't have the money to run those courses. Forget about undergraduate. Even at the university, we're going to face problems. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, please.
Okay, and the very fact that we are having to do this event here states that neither any state or the central or the administration, nobody is interested in listening to any kind of alternative views, firstly. Secondly, I have little criticism with the academic council that there is no student representation as such in the academic council. So the voice of the students have been completely marginalized in the academic council, and neither is it being the talk of the town even now. The students, the NEHUSU, totally do not want the implementation of NEP at all. In fact, it wants the continuation of the present policy, and we demand a better policy, but NEP should never be implemented in the state of Meghalaya and in the country as a whole. So that is the clear stance of NEHUSU, is what we would like to state. And
Thank you very much. Now this discussion can go on and on, but we don't have the time. So it was a very insightful discussion, and we have been able to receive many points and suggestions and comments from the panelists as well as from the audience. So from what I can sum up, I would like to say that, a nuanced approach that harmonizes both ideologies, that is neoliberal and socialist ideologies, I think it could pave the way for for education in the state of India to be an improved educational system in the state that is both progressive and inclusive, and I do hope that our policymakers and people in the helms of affairs can understand this and tread with caution before implementing or before going ahead with anything, because I really hope that they can really do that because with caution, so that we can ensure that we can foster a society where education can the flame of education can burn bright for all and not just for the privileged few. So once again, I want to thank the panelists for taking your time out to be here and taking part in this discussion, and I thank the people, the audience, for also taking part and sharing your valuable suggestions and your questions. And also to all of you who are watching this show, please don't forget to share your comments in the comment section below. Until next time, this is Ibanginte Maori saying thank you very much.